Okay, so we're back for our read aloud today. Remember, we're still reading Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger by Lewis Sacker. Today, we are going to read chapter 6 called Pet Day. Okay? Remember, yesterday, we read the chapter about Paul pulling Leslie's pigtails again, and then he got sent to the counselor's office, and he made it so every time that he wanted to pull her pigtail, it turned into a rattlesnake, which was super freaky. Okay? Let's see what happens on Pet Day. Chapter 6, Pet Day. All the kids in Mrs. Jewls' class brought a pet to school. The room was very noisy. Dogs barked, cats meowed, a frog croaked, a pig squealed, a cow mooed, birds tweeted. Mrs. Jewls held up 2 fingers. All the animals became quiet. Stephen didn't have a pet, so he brought an orange. He kept the orange in a cage on his desk so it couldn't escape. Todd brought Ralphie, his baby brother. "Todd," said Mrs. Jewls. Todd barked. "You cannot have a pet human," said Mrs. Jewls. "He doesn't bite," Todd assured her. Joy told Todd to sit and be quiet. Mrs. Jewls got a large piece of poster board from the supply closet. "Let's make a chart," she said. Across the top of her chart she wrote, "Name of kid, kind of pet, name of pet." She started with Dee Dee. She wrote Dee Dee under name of kid. "And you have a dog," she said. "Cat," said Dee Dee. "Cat?" asked Mrs. Jewls. Dee Dee nodded as she petted her dog. Mrs. Jewls moved on to Ron. "Ron, I can see you have a dog." "Dog," said Ron as he stroked the cat on his lap. Mrs. Jewls shrugged. "Okay," she said. "He's my dog," said Dee Dee. "Ron has your dog?" asked Mrs. Jewls. "Ron has a cat," said DJ. "That's what I thought," said Mrs. Jewls. "But what's a dog?" said Jenny. Mrs. Jewls covered her ears and shook her head. "Let's start all over again," said Mrs. Jewls. She got a new piece of poster board from the supply closet. "Mac, what's your dog's name?" "What's my dog's name?" said Jenny. "I'm not talking to you, Jenny. I'm talking to Mac." "He can't talk," said Mac. "Who can't talk?" asked Mrs. Jewls. "Mac," said Mac. Billy barked at Mac. Mac barked at Billy. Todd barked at both of them. Joy made Todd lie down by her feet. Mrs. Jewls moved on. What's your pet, Myron?" she asked. "Your pet's a turtle," said Cherry. "What?" asked Mrs. Jewls. "What is Jenny's pet?" said Cherry. "Jenny's pet is a dog," said Mrs. Jewls. "What's his name, Jenny?" Jenny nodded. Her dog sat up straight and tall and seemed to smile at Mrs. Jewls. "He's so handsome," said Mrs. Jewls. "My mouse is handsome," said Benjamin. Benjamin had a little white mouse in a cage on his desk. "If you like mice," said Dana, making a face. "Mrs. Jewls likes mice," said Calvin. "She eats them." "Gross," said Dana. "He won't come when you call him," said Kathy. "He doesn't even know his name." Billy meowed. "Will Mrs. Jewls eat yogurt?" asked John. "No way," said Calvin. "I will too," said Mrs. Jewls. "I like yogurt. I like strawberry yogurt the best." Mauricia beamed. "Mrs. Jewls likes strawberry best," she bragged. "You shouldn't pick favorites," complained Dana. "Do you like crackers, Mrs. Jewls?" asked Rondi. "Don't worry," said Calvin. "Mrs. Jewls won't eat crackers." "How do you know what I won't eat, Calvin?" asked Mrs. Jewls, a little annoyed. "I like eating crackers with cheese on top." "Ugh, gross," said Myron. "He won't come when you call him," Kathy said again. "Mac, he Keep Mac away from my socks, shouted Allison. Wait, said Jason. Now you've got my socks and I've got your socks. I can tell the difference between my socks and your socks, Jason, said Allison. Mrs. Jewls covered her ears and shook her head. She moved on. What's your pet, Damien? She asked. I already told you he was a turtle, said Sherry. I wasn't talking to you, Sherry, said Mrs. Jewls. I was talking to Damien. Your nose a ferret? Said Damien. My nose a ferret? Asked Mrs. Jewls. My nose a hamster, said Joe. Billy bleated. Mrs. Jewls licked her leg. Hey, Paul, said Leslie. I like your pigtails. Thanks, said Paul. May I touch your pajamas? Go ahead, said Bebe, who was already petting Leslie's pajamas. She won't scratch you. This is crazy, shouted Terrence. He's cute, said Dana. That chapter was a little confusing. I bet this will help clear it up. So I'm going to read you the names of all the kids, their pets, and the name of the pet. So Dee Dee has a dog named Cat. Ron has a cat named Dog. DJ has a dog named OK. Jenny has a dog named What. Mac has a dog named Mac. Joy has a dog named Todd. Sherry has a turtle named Yorpit. Benjamin has a mouse named Handsome. Calvin has a cat named Mrs. Jewls. Kathy has a skunk named Gross. John has a frog named Yogurt. Mauricia has a cat named Strawberry. Rondi has a bird named Crackers. Myron has a chipmunk named Cheese. Allison has a cat named Socks. And also, Jason has a cat named Socks. That's why they were getting them mixed up. Damien has a ferret named Yorno. Joe has a hamster named Mino. Paul has a pig named Tails. Leslie has a cat named Pajamas. Terrence has a dog named Crazy. Eric Fry has a goat named Billy. Eric Bacon has a dog named Billy. And Eric Ovens has a cat named Billy. Dana has a dog named Pugsy. Bebe has a bird named Picasso. Todd has a kid named Ralphie, that's his brother. And Steven has an orange named Fido. That was so confusing. But now if we read the chapter, I bet it would make a lot more sense. So if you want, you can re-watch this video and see if now that you know the names of all their pets, the chapter makes more sense. See you soon!